Chairman of the Finance Committee to postpone till next month, and seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Okay, vote please. Oh, I'm sorry, wait. We do have two people who want to speak. No, one person with two cards. Mr. Carlo, did you want to speak?
No, not if it's postponed, no need to speak.
Okay, thanks. All right. Okay, now vote. I got it under control. Brian?
Ms. O'Brien? Okay. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, next ordinance calendar 5677, ordinance to establish the 2017 through 2021 Parish Capital Improvement Budget and Program, and to further identify fixed assets and grant awards. Mr. Tanner?
Move to postpone until the December meeting.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone to December, and second by Mr. Belisario again. Any discussion? Okay, vote please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, and we will hold a hearing on this December meeting on both of these items. Let me just say, copies of both budgets will be made available for review by October 3rd, so it's been there since October 3rd at the Parish Council Office and the following parish library branches: Abita, Bush, Causeway, Covington, Folsom, Lacombe, Lee Road, Madisonville, Mandeville, Pearl River, Slidell, Robert Boulevard, and South Slidell. Okay, the next portion of our agenda, we have presentations.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the public hearing is supposed to be tonight.
And I believe that we asked if anybody had any conversation, any discussion on each item. And
I know, I said, but, I mean, you said you're going to have a public hearing again. I mean, we'll be hearing the ordinances, but you won't be having a public hearing,
Okay.
okay?
Why can't we have a public hearing in December?
We will on each ordinance, correct? And isn't that the same thing? Or are you just being ornery? That would be new behavior for you, I realize that. Okay. But in order to satisfy Mr. Stefansik's sergeant-at-arms role, is there anyone who would like to speak? Again, we will vote on both ordinances next December, but is there anyone who would like to speak or discuss at all the either the budget or the capital budget for 2017 through 21? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go on to the next section. All right. Our first presentation is proclamation of St. Tammany Parish Government Employee of the Month. Ms. Brister.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our Employee of the Month had an emergency, could not make it tonight, so we would like to postpone that. But if I could take time instead and just say thank you to all the people that showed up at the Alton area sweep last week. It was amazing. They did such a great job out there. It was all volunteers, employees, and residents, and it was our first Keep St. Tammany Beautiful event, and it was a model for how it should go. So thank you, Mr. Smith, for all your involvement, and all the friends and all the employees that were out there too. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to just echo those sentiments coming from the parish president in reference to this initiative. That was a huge success, but it was only because of, as she stated, of the involvement of parish government, public works and department, and I'm not going to start calling any names because I might miss a few, and the community at large, even from the education community and the faith-based community, and a large outpouring of residents from the community as well, to make this a very productive event. And it's not going to stop there, okay? So you'll be hearing some more about Keeping St. Tammany Beautiful and the Alton Beautification Project.
Okay, thanks to everybody. Okay, second presentation, and we have 5 or 4 more, actually. So we're going to try to keep all these presentations, but we're supposed to be around 5 minutes. Presentation by the mosquito abatement. Mr. Stefansik, did you sponsor that?
Yes. I had asked them to come before the council to bring us up to speed on what's happening. Chuck Palmazano, as you know, he was here a few weeks or a couple months ago, and he retired. And mosquito abatement district, to me, has been one of the areas that has probably displayed a good government role as much as anybody I know. They certainly manage their funds well, and they're ready to handle any kind of an emergency we have, and especially with the virus, the Zika virus that's going now, and, you know, we still have the West Nile virus and several other things. So, and the importance of tonight is that they have a renewal on the ballot in December. And I think, I think that with their renewal, there's going to be 3 other issues on there as well. I just want to make sure that the people, I mean, I'm not degrading any of the rest of them, believe me, I hope they all get their shot at it. But this one here, if it doesn't pass, the mosquitoes, there will be no more spraying for mosquitoes and that's such in our parish, because they do now spray the whole parish. They used to only be in the 8th, 9th wards. They spread, they took in the whole parish, and they've never, ever raised their taxes. So I wanted to invite them tonight. The new director, Vicki Taylor, is here to make a presentation, and wanted her to, you know, let us know what's going on and what they're looking at on their side of it. So, you know, Vicki,
Okay.
if you introduce Jay.
Okay, and this is Kevin Caluette, and he is our assistant director. It's been quite a year for us. You know, we started off and first had a plane crash and lost our 2 of our pilots, and then Chuck retired after nearly 40 years. And so when I took over, I immediately started out by buying a new airplane, which was rather amazing to me, because it is a $3 million plane, but we decided that we needed it because it could carry 200 gallons of material, which would extend the spraying time and actually allow us to cover more area. I have a presentation, but I'm going to go through it real fast because they said we had 5 minutes. We have about 50 people that work for us, about 20 full-time people, and we started mosquito control in 1968, and I wrote down here, what's a bazillion? Well, in 1968, this was a man who went out in the marsh in Slidell, and that was the mosquitoes that landed on him. So it was really a tough place to live. So they did vote mosquito control, but only Slidell and Pearl River voted it in. Then in 2001, the whole parish took us in. Well, we use integrated mosquito management, which means that we look for the mosquitoes, we inspect for larviciding. Whoops, what did I do? I must have gone to the, oh well, I screwed it up. So we actually do inspections, we bring all the mosquitoes to the lab, we count them, we identify them, we send specimens to the lab to be tested for West Nile virus, Zika, we have the disease chikungunya sometimes in the area. Dengue fever could appear with these mosquitoes. So we want people to know we're a very scientific organization and we take our job seriously, and the monies that come in are used extensively for chemicals and we have ditches, just hundreds of miles of septic ditches in St. Tammany Parish that have to be treated on a weekly basis because they're producing the West Nile virus mosquito, the southern house mosquito. So we do want everybody to realize that we have a vote coming up. A lot of people are telling me that they haven't heard of it and that they were surprised. We have decreased our millage since, I think it was 96 or something like that. It was at 1.10 mils, and we're down to 4.2 mils.
No, it was at 10 mils.
10, what did I say? Yeah, it was at 10 mils. So we've decreased it. This year, our millage is going to be 4.05, and we do have a lot of expenses, especially with the plane. We are dipping into the contingency to pay for the plane. I'd like Kevin to speak because he's the one that's very knowledgeable about arbovirus research.
Thank you for having us.
Kevin, excuse me, I'm
Yes.
sorry, before you go, I want to make sure that everybody understands, the insurance paid for part of that plane also. because we did lose a plane. We didn't just buy a whole new plane because we want, okay. You didn't say that, and I wanted everybody to understand that you really are very, very frugal with your money, so.
Thank you very much. And council, thank you for having us, and Councilman Stefanczyk, thank you for inviting us. If we could go back to the slides. Just wanted to really briefly talk about Zika virus. Of course, it's all over the media. If we didn't have a presidential cycle going on right now, you'd still be hearing more about this. But that's, of course, taking all of our time away. We've heard about Zika. We've heard about the severe birth defects that this virus can cause. But I want to really talk about what is determining our local risk of Zika virus in our area. And there are three main things that do that. Number one is the rate of importation of cases into our area. Number two is an abundance of effective vectors. And number three is people being exposed to those vectors. Fortunately for us, in Louisiana, we have a pretty low number of imported cases coming into Louisiana, only 34 to date for the whole state. In St. Tammany, we've had 2 of those cases, and you can see lots more of those cases are occurring on the South Shore, and Orleans and Jefferson have the lion's share of those cases. Florida, by way of reference, has 774 travel-related cases. So we have much lower importation of humans bringing in Zika virus into our area than they do in Florida. Of course, they've had a local outbreak of Zika virus in Florida, 186 cases to date, all happening in Miami-Dade County. And actually, this small area, this is Miami Beach and now the Little Haiti area. And I actually went down there last week to view their Zika mitigation efforts, to learn from them, see how we can bring back those tools. Both of the vectors that transmit Zika we have in St. Tammany Parish. Fortunately for us, the primary vector, the most efficient vector of Zika, it has very low abundance. It's only found in the southern Eden Isles area, in southern Slidell, and one node in Mandeville. Both of these vectors, the Asian tiger mosquito and the yellow fever mosquito, are coming out of containers just like these. Water-holding containers that are in everyone's backyard, tires, kids' toys, buckets, rain barrels, corrugated downspout extensions. We really need the public to understand and to know that they need to do their part to eliminate mosquito breeding around the house. Like I said, fortunately, the distribution of Aedes aegypti, the yellow fever mosquito, the primary, most efficient vector of Zika, it's a tropical mosquito. And so it's not making its way into our areas as much. And like I said, the distribution here in St. Tammany is this little toe in southern Eden Isles, southern Slidell, and one node in Mandeville. And we have traps sort of trying to sense these mosquitoes when they're in our environment so that we can go and keep them as low as possible. So fortunately for us, the rate of importation is low. The abundance of the most effective vector is low and focally populated in St. Tammany. And our human exposure to mosquitoes is low. I won't go into too much detail with that. So though our risk may be low, we have a plan, a Zika virus plan. This has been posted on our website since January of this year, working in conjunction with the Department of Homeland Security in the parish, as well as the Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. We formulated this plan. And essentially, the plan scenario is if we are notified of a case of Zika virus, we set up a perimeter and sort of an area that we're going to try to stamp out Zika virus. We go door to door at all these houses. We distribute educational brochure how they can reduce their family's risk of Zika. And we're also doing larval control. And we're sending the trucks and the planes. All of our efforts are on the table to try to keep this from entering St. Tammany Parish. Now, of course, our risk, we saw that high rate of importation in Orleans and Jefferson. Our risk is a sort of spillover risk. They have a much higher risk in the New Orleans area. So we're monitoring that very closely and working with our partners down there as well. West Nile virus is an annual concern. We had 22 West Nile virus infected mosquito pools found this year across the parish. That's all I had for today. Just some other tips for avoiding and how to mosquito-proof your life. This is a sort of a campaign that we're out hitting the neighborhoods, and we're also announcing some Zika virus community meetings to try to bring our message to the public. This will be the last week of this month. Thank you for the time.
Thank you all for what you do. Any questions or comments?
Just want to remind everybody, go out and vote in December.
All right. So it's in December?
This is on the, December ballot.
December
and,
ballot, okay.
And this one, I certainly
it's a
hope that they
renewal.
vote for.
Sir? Yeah, all right. Our next one is Ms. Diane Bayham, Stark and Coast.
Hi,
Good
I'm
evening.
Diane Bayham, Executive Director at Stark, and this is Julie Egan, and she's the Executive Director of Coast. We want to begin by thanking the council and all of your support staff for your loyal support to us, to individuals that are special citizens, and to those citizens that have earned that title of senior citizen. We really appreciate your support. We've brought a piece of artwork tonight, Marty, that we want to present to you, that you may hang in one of your facilities, and just be reminded how much we appreciate each one of you. I also want to thank you folks with mosquito control, because Stark first started in 1972 because a little girl was bit by a mosquito in the aftermath of a hurricane. The mosquito was carrying encephalitis. Her name is Heaven, and from that point on, she has functioned at just a few months old, though today she's in her 40s. It's amazing to me what can happen so very, very quickly. In fact, in the United States, there are 54 million people with at least one disability, and 1 out of every 6 children has at least one disability. In St. Tammany Parish, we are above the national average. The leading cause of mental retardation being fetal alcohol syndrome, totally preventable, but the leading cause, rivaled now by autism that you hear so much about. But in St. Tammany Parish, we have 30,770 individuals age 5 or older that have at least one disability. That could be mental, or it could be physical disability. Stark serves and has been serving since 1972 about 1,000 individuals at any one time. We want to thank the people of St. Tammany Parish because in 1999, they imposed a tax upon themselves, and they invested in the life and in the work of Stark. And 10 years later, they renewed that millage and continued to invest in the work and the ministry that we have in this community. When the millage first passed, it was new money to us, and we were so excited about all the things that we were going to do. But what has happened is, as the state has chipped away at our budget, that money has now become complete replacement money. And it's money that is needed to preserve the quality of life for people with special needs in St. Tammany Parish. We too, Mr. Steve, will be on that ballot on December the 10th. It's the second proposition that will be on the ballot. It is 2 mills evenly divided between Coast and Stark. And so we would ask each of you to please consider supporting the renewal of that millage. And within your circle of influence, family, friends, enemies, please ask them to also consider supporting the renewal of the millage that will be on that December ballot. Our folks are living longer. We're serving people now in their 70s that used to live only to 35 or 40, and it's because they have enriched and enhanced lives. And we can thank the people of St. Tammany Parish for helping to make that possible. So thank you so much. God bless you. Happy Thanksgiving.
If I could speak for just a moment, Diane presents our case so eloquently. I'm a little bit more hard facts, black and white. She mentioned that there's about 30,000 persons in St. Tammany Parish with some type of disability. There's about 54,000 seniors, a lot of us in this room. And together, we help about 4,000 people in St. Tammany Parish. So you don't need to be a mathematician to understand that the need is greater than we will ever be able to meet. However, if this tax millage doesn't pass, and we're not asking for any more money, it's the same 2 mills we've had since the late 90s. But without it, the services that we provide to the citizens with disabilities and to our seniors will be drastically cut. This is not a want or a hope. This is a must. We must, Stark Coast, and hopefully all the taxpayers continue to take a few dollars out of our pockets so that the citizens here of St. Tammany Parish, all of our citizens, those with disabilities and those with, and those who are seniors, can continue to enjoy the quality of life that we have, because I certainly don't want to have to make phone calls telling people who have relied on us for the past 20 years that their services are no longer available, because I don't know where our seniors will go without Coast. And this renewal is the greater part of our entire budget. It will be devastating to Coast to not have the tax renewal. So again, we thank all of you esteemed council persons, everyone from the parish, and all of our fellow residents for the support for these past 20 years. Let's get another 10 years passed. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much. Our next presentation, a representative of Southern Eye Bank, presentation of an award to Dr. Charles Preston, our esteemed coroner.
Good evening. My name is Joy Roussel, and I'm the Executive Director of the Southern Eye Bank. The Southern Eye Bank has been in existence since 1947, and we are the oldest eye bank, the third oldest eye bank in the United States. I'm here today with Dr. Reddy. He is one of our leading corneal transplantation surgeons here serving your community, and we together would like to honor Dr. Preston and the St. Tammany Parish Coroner's Office for their dedication to corneal donation and providing the gift of sight. Just this year, Dr. Preston's team facilitated in over 70 referrals to us, which resulted in 16 people receiving the gift of sight and many more that helped further research. So we feel that we would like to acknowledge that and his team with the partnership of Dr. Reddy, who does the surgeries. Please.
Dr. Preston, it is our pleasure to present you and your team with the Vision Champion Award for your service to ophthalmology and to eyesight in the community.
Thank you so very much. I just want to say that I'm very honored to be here representing the team at the coroner's office that really are the Vision Champions. It is from the investigators that enter the data of potential donors to the morgue technicians and pathology staff that facilitate the recovery of this tissue that allow these folks to have the continued gift of sight. And it is really my honor to be a part of that team. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and our fifth presentation is Ms. Morse, Terry. Presentation by the Covington Food Bank. You got everything you need?
I think I do. Yep, sure do.
Okay, looks good. All right.
Thank you guys so much. It is really a pleasure for me to be here this evening just to share a short snapshot of the Food Bank of Covington, which is located at 840 North Columbia, just a few blocks down from the Justice Center. We are a 32-year-old organization here in St. Tammany Parish. We were started by an ecumenical council of 9 churches, basically helping about 30 families a month with 10,000 pounds of food a year. Today, we help 375 families a week, and we expect that we will distribute over 1.3 million pounds of food. We have a very limited paid staff, but what we do have is we have more than 15,000 hours of volunteer time that this community brings to us. Our food receipt sources come from 3 areas: that which is donated by the community itself. We are also a partner agency with Second Harvest, which is the Feeding America agency located in Harahan. They are another resource for us. And the final one is we do purchase our own food. In 2012, we made a commitment to the people that we serve that we would provide the best nutritionally sound staple box that we could. So that as we have grown over the years, what we have seen is just the need for food to skyrocket. Our distribution does consist of that 34-pound box of staple food, as well as what we call a steak to cakes lanyap, which is food that we receive from partners, whether that be Walmart, Target, Pizza Hut, Dunkin' Donuts. It's a steak to cakes lanyap and something that our participants really value. Our participants in St. Tammany Parish, we serve from north to south and east to west all throughout St. Tammany Parish. A large portion of our food, almost 570,000 pounds in 2015, went to residents here in St. Tammany. 11% of our people are seniors, 38% of our participants are children, and 51% are adults. Top 2 reasons people come to see us is because they've lost their job or their hours at work have been reduced. 60% of the people that are with us for 6 months or less. They get back on their feet and they go on their way. The other 40% are those that are either seniors on fixed income, and if I see one more senior that makes $813, they are some of the most resourceful people that you will ever meet. Our disabled population and those that are not able to break free from poverty. One of the things that we also do at the food bank, which is somewhat of a hidden gem in the community, is we offer a dental clinic. In 2005, we began with volunteer dentists as well as physicians to operate a medical dental clinic. For whatever reason, over the years, the only thing that's really sustained has been the dental clinic itself. The dental clinic, in order for a patient to be seen in the dental clinic, they must apply for services. We have a ceiling limit that anyone who comes into our clinic and becomes a program member, their income has to be below 130% of the federal poverty guideline. Since 2011, we have seen a decline in the volunteer dentists as well as the financial donations to this program, and that basically propelled us into getting into grant writing. We have enjoyed a grant partnership with the parish since 2012, and we are very, very hopeful that it will continue as we work towards self-sustainability. We are a service industry in this parish that is unparalleled. There is no other dental clinic that has affordable pricing like we do for the uninsured poor. If you look at this pie chart, what this basically shows you is what we do. We are not an extraction clinic. We provide solid, expert, quality care, just as you receive in your own dental offices that you go to. Our dental hygienist is booked about 6 weeks out. Our volunteer dentist and our paid dentist are booked anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Our patient population with our dental clinic, 90% of the people that we serve are residents of St. Tammany Parish. Our thrift store has been with us in some way, shape, or fashion since we opened our doors. And basically, yes, we do sell clothing at $2.50 for a reused shirt or a pair of pants. But the other thing that we do is we provide free clothing. This year, we expect that we will provide over $100,000 worth of free clothes. And if you look at that in the sense of $2.50, that's a lot of clothes. We also provide clothing to anyone who is impacted by disasters, as well as furniture and household goods. Undoubtedly for us on Columbia Street, the greatest event that we have incurred this year has been the floods. One of the things that was really interesting for us is being located where we are and the span of reach that we have, we needed guideposts. In March, we contacted our mayor's office, Mayor Cooper, who basically told us where the need was greatest. In August, we did the same thing with Ronnie Simpson. I got on the phone with him. He told me this is who you need to call, emergency preparedness-wise in Livingston Parish. From that, we began to then collaborate locally and regionally, securing supplies, whether it was food, whether it was cleaning supplies, personal hygiene, and we're very proud of the fact that we were able to provide enough sheetrock, joint compound, tape, all the stuff that you use to redo houses for 78 homes located in Springfield and Denham Springs. Undoubtedly, what we also pride ourselves on is the fact that we are a community-driven organization. We are a pathway for one community to help another. We are very, very much appreciate the support that the parish has given us. We value tremendously the confidence that you guys place in us, as well as the community. And I welcome each and every one of you to come and take a tour and come see that magic that's created by this community in that organization. So, thank you.
Before she steps down, if y'all don't mind, I invited her to come because I went by there, and I don't know how many of it. Gene, you've been there, huh? And Maureen, it's truly an amazing thing, and I'm embarrassed by it because I've lived in Covington since the early '80s, and I've passed by like a bazillion times, and I have never gone in there. And I've also kind of thought, well, you know, they can't be doing much because everybody in St. Tammany Parish has got money, and you know, nobody's hungry. Well, if you go there, what, about 8 in the morning or something, and you look down, what's the name of that street?
Madison and 29th.
Okay, it's cars as far as you can see. And these are not people who want handouts, these are truly, and I think, could you tell me what, I think that you say that they're actually there 3 to 6 months?
Yeah,
What's the
6
length of
months.
time?
Usually, Mr. Dean, they're with us 4 to 6 months, and then they move on. So it's only that sector that has to, that is on a fixed income, or that is disabled, or that cannot just get out of that poverty cycle that are with us long-term and recertified once a year.
And so then the situation that she finds herself in, or if I could speak for you, is that we are in a wealthy parish, and so, you know, the situations or the organizations that don't get a tax, you know, whatever, the Avalon tax or whatever, yearly, she has to make it up for, you know, from donations and all that. So let me just, I was incredibly impressed. And
Yeah.
just as first time I went to Stark, I was very impressed, and I just kind of, they need our assistance. And I'm just talking to the people who are listening on TV and the folks who are here and the council members, they do need our assistance. What is a volunteer?
Food drives,
Food drive and
time,
funds?
yeah.
Okay, and how can people donate?
They can donate financially, of course, because we are able to procure food at wholesale prices much cheaper than you can buy at the grocery store. Food drives are of tremendous support. And also the other thing is that we do pick up furniture, and I know Jeff St. Romain's back here. I don't want to compete with him. He's, you know, he does the same thing. But we do that, and it's available locally in Mandeville and Covington. And, you know, that also, we try to utilize that as an avenue to produce funds for us.
All right. Any questions or anything? Please, if you haven't been by there to tour, please do.
Yeah, please come see us.
All right.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for what you do. Okay, the next,
Mr. Dean, may I mention something while we're in a pause and moving on to the next item by way of public announcement? Thank you very much. My spot zoning monitor next to me is giving me a short time frame. On November 22nd, a program that was started by the Covington Rotary Club, Feed the Needy, which, by the way, the food bank has worked with us, and we work with the food bank. We're fortunate to have our governor appearing at our fundraising luncheon, which will be at the St. Paul's Cafeteria at 12 o'clock noon on that particular day. The funds that are derived from that luncheon are used to feed 1,500 families on Christmas Day, and we raise approximately $60,000 in a 30-day window in order to accommodate those needs. And again, the gracious people from the food bank have been very helpful to us in the past. So we would encourage everybody to come out and attend that event. There's no administrative cost associated with this undertaking, so every dollar that you contribute for your lunch, save the cost of the lunch, goes directly to this program. So thank you very much.
thank you, Mr. Toledano.
Mr. Chairman, it's down here.
Yes, sir.
If I may, I'd like to, I know we're getting ready to go into the consent calendar. Can we, I'd like to make a motion to move up items 1 and 2 on the calendar, on the ordinances for adoption due to some extenuating circumstances surrounding some time elements dealing with the moratorium. I'd like to make a motion to move those 2 up.
You're talking about bypass the consent calendar and,
Yes, sir.
okay, now say that again?
I know it's a little bit out of the ordinary, but
Can it wait just a couple of minutes? Or you want to, Mr. Belisario?
yeah, I'd like to move them up if I could, yeah.
It could be
Okay.
done immediately after, because we only have a couple items to be pulled.
I know. I
All
got
right.
some, got
Well,
some-
he has a motion to move items, ordinances for adoption in 1 and 2, correct?
yes.
To go prior to consent calendar?
Yeah, that's the motion.
Okay. So do I have a second? Does somebody, okay. Seconded by Ms. Blanchard. Any discussion? This is for moving the items 1 and 2 to right now. Vote, please.
I want some discussion. Why do they have to be moved? I mean, is there a lot of people here waiting to hear what we're gonna do, or what?
Well, yeah, there are some time constraints that some of us have, yeah, that we prompt us to want to make that move.
Y'all have to leave, is that
Yes.
what you're saying? Okay, no problem.
Okay, so vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so the motion, all right, so now, per Mr. Smith's request, we've moved ordinances for adoptions 1 and 2. Ordinance calendar number 5658, ordinance to impose a 6-month moratorium to enter a parish right-of-way for the purpose of gaining access to any undeveloped lot in a dormant subdivision or subdivision of record.
So moved.
Have a motion by
Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Tanner. Do I have a second? Who's second? Second by Mr. Sharp. We have someone, Ms. Marilyn Seifert,
Mr.
wants to
Chair.
discuss.
After we have that, I want to make a motion to change this from a 6-month moratorium to a 2-month moratorium as a friendly amendment.
Okay, so do you want to hold this, let's
Yes.
see what Ms. Seifert, and then you
Yes.
can amend it. Is she here?
It's right there.
Yes, ma'am.
Marilyn Seifert, 440 Maroney Avenue. I thank you for the suggestion of 2 months. That was the problem. We are afraid, many of the landowners, that this will go on forever and ever, the moratorium, and we do not feel that you're putting a moratorium on these lots of record, which are most 95% of the time capable of being combined and whatever else, fitting all the other stipulations that are necessary. We agree with all of that. But the fact that these whole areas would be taken out of commerce for an indefinite period of time is a blow. And there is a large discussion and people wondering on what can be done against the council and with the council and whatever. At any rate, 2 months is fair, and I've talked with Mr. Tanner, and Mr. Tanner says he will stick with it. His problem, which has brought all this on, will be rectified, and then the
Okay.
other ones will take over. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a motion by Mr. Belisario to go from 6 months to 2 months,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
And
that's correct.
second by Ms. O'Brien. Any discussion on that amendment? Mr. Tanner, you have your light on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's all right. Any discussion on that? Mr.
Yes.
Stefanski?
This is going to delay the voting on this another month, because it's going to have to be reintroduced. This is more restrictive, and therefore it has to, would be going back to introduction.
So you have to introduce?
It has to be
Amend and
changed and
reintroduce?
then reintroduced. It can't be up for adoption tonight.
Okay, so the motion is to amend to 2 months and reintroduce. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
I think-
I'd like to get a ruling from our attorney on that. Is this,
He
this
was
is a
shaking his
major
head.
change that we can't vote on it?
Well, when you change a number that significantly, I believe
It's
it is.
less, when it's less?
Yes, yes. Even though it's less, you're restricting the time down, so it is more restrictive in a way, and it needs to lay over for an additional time period if it's successful in passing the amendment. If it's not, then you can vote on the item as it stands on the agenda tonight.
Mr. Groby?
Yes, sir, Chair. I have a question for Mr. Sharp. You're a co-sponsor on the original ordinance. Can I have your thoughts on this, if you don't mind? If you're supportive of it, or?
And this is on the amendment.
I don't think that 6 months is going to be a burden. I think that whatever plans developers have, whatever plans real estate agents have for selling these lots, selling this property in blocks, I think that in order for us to get this finally worked out once and for all, that 6 months is not overly restricted. I would like to see us stay with that if possible.
Okay, Ms. Blanchard?
Yeah, I would like Mr. Hand to explain again how going from 2 months is more restrictive than 6 months taking property out of commerce. 'Cause I'm just not understanding that.
Well, you're taking the time period, the 6 months, and you're reducing it. That's a significant change in this ordinance. In other words, you're taking the number itself and changing it significantly.
Mr. Stefanski?
Yes. I agree with Mr. Hand, though, it is more restrictive, and, you know, we've had this thing on the agenda for 2 months. And we were planning on the 6-month thing. What we're doing with the 2 months is it would cause it to go 3 anyhow, because the time we got it adopted now, although we don't have something holding us in place now, our emergency moratorium has run out. So we can't, we'd have to do something along that lines to keep this in place, since it's not been adopted yet. And I think we put it on the agenda, and we need to go ahead and vote on it and get it done. And I think part of the problem I have with it is 6 months is gonna be hard to meet anyhow. So I don't know how you would meet 2 months, and then you're gonna put another one on to, I assume, extend it out farther. I think we need to go ahead and get this done. And
Okay.
if we get it done before 6 months, then we could remove this ordinance or make the changes to the ordinance that we needed. That's the way I would look at it.
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Smith
Yes,
has a
Mr.
slide.
Chairman. This thing started off, in my opinion, wrong. We're talking about a parish-wide law here that is going to impact each and every piece of property in this parish that are lots of record and so on. That was not as it was presented initially when it was brought to us on the spur of the moment, any apparent parish-wide thought put into this law. And now here we are trying to amend something that was started off wrong. And so we are going to, by doing this, in the whole parish, eliminate, as I heard someone say earlier, many properties being taken out of commerce, number one. Number two, we are going to lose a lot of revenue that we are so desperately looking for all over this state, like we did with the $1 million grant that we lost when we just started talking about putting a moratorium in place. There was $1 million of money lost that could have helped to provide affordable housing in this parish, which we so desperately need. And number three, we eliminate or we take away the right of individuals to address this question now that we're looking at changing what we started off with wrong. So by doing that, we're taking away people's right to give input and comment to this question.
So as it relates to the 2-month versus 6-month, what are you saying?
The 2 months is much better than the 6 month.
Okay.
But when we also were entertaining the 6 month, my understanding was that we were going to come back and put another piece of legislation in place that was going to do away with this parish-wide ordinance, the second one, and put in place a moratorium that was not so impactful on the entire parish. It was just going to involve the gross management area. So does that still exist?
Yes, it's the next ordinance.
Mr. Belisario.
I know it.
Mr. Dean, I want to get some clarity.
Hang on,
Sure.
please. Mr. Tanner first, and then you, Dean, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Mr. Smith, if you look at ordinance number 2, which you also pulled, that's what corrects the moratorium. If we pass ordinance number 2, we won't need a moratorium. But we can't get ordinance number 2 passed tonight because it has to go to the planning and zoning to be voted on and then back to us. So that's the only reason why we want to continue the moratorium tonight. I don't have a problem with 2 months because I think we're going to be able to pass this ordinance number 2, which is going to open everything back up to what it should be. It's only going to change the minimum lot size in the above the urban growth line.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Belisario.
if my memory serves me correct, last month, we referred this to the Planning Commission. And I believe the Planning Commission is going to hear it next Tuesday. Is that correct, Sidney?
I don't remember if it,
It's on the agenda.
it'd be the November meeting. I couldn't remember if it was November,
It's
December
next
meeting.
Tuesday, so
which
it's
means
on the
It
agenda.
could come back to you in
It'll be next
December.
Wednesday, I believe, because of the federal election. So that'll be coming back to us next month. And that dovetails into what Richard's saying, and that's why we're looking at the 2 months, was because of that. But if the case, I felt 2 months was less restrictive. But I'll stand by what our legal counsel says, but it's the first time I've seen where a lesser number is more, is essentially what you're telling me. So it's hard for me to compute that. But if that's the law, then let's just stay with the 6 months, pass 5681, and prepare next month to rescind 5658.
Okay, so we still have the amendment on the floor and seconded.
Okay?
So you're withdrawing?
I will withdraw the amendment to go down to 2 months.
And, well, I'm glad we had this conversation. Mr.
Person who
Smith?
seconded it has to also
Yeah,
agree to that.
yeah. Mr. Smith?
So, to make sure I understand before we take this vote.
If you understand it, you better than I am. Go ahead.
So, Mr. Tanner directed this toward me, and I'm going to direct it back to him. So what you're telling me and the rest of the parish is, if we go ahead and adopt this 6-month moratorium tonight, then on the next ordinance, we're going to come back and adopt it as well? Is that what I'm understanding, or
Yes.
is that not correct?
Adopt what as well?
5681.
We're going to adopt 5681 and then defeat or you'd say appeal
Remove.
or repeal 5658, so we don't have a moratorium.
Okay.
And that's explained the
Next
last
month.
2 months to this council. I don't understand why y'all having a hard time figuring that out. Are y'all scared we're trying to pull something over on you?
Because
We're
we
not.
live below the growth management area, maybe.
Do what?
I said, maybe because we live below the growth management area.
Well, if you want to make the lots bigger and lower the growth management area, that's fine with me.
That'll
But,
pass.
most of the little lots that are in PUDs and what have you are down in the urban growth area and not in the upper growth area.
Okay. Okay. So we have did you withdraw your second?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the question's been called.
I think there needs to be a clarification, Mr. Smith. We cannot adopt 5681 tonight because it has to go to planning.
Right.
So it'll be back next month for adoption. It's not going to be adopted tonight because we can't. It's been sent to planning, and they will make their recommendations and come back to us, and that's when we can adopt it, which would be next month.
Okay, so we're going to vote.
Okay, 1 second. So we'll be stuck with this one for 30 days? Okay. With assurances that what you all just explained would take place after the planning sends it back to us.
There are no assurances, but however you want to put it.
There are assurances.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to vote. We're going to, we already have a motion and a second on the first?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Dean, one point, if you would. I'd like the record to reflect that I am going to recuse myself because I, as a co-owner, own a lot of record in St. Tammany Parish.
Thank you, Mr. Toledano. Okay. Vote with your lights, please. On ordinance calendar number 5658.
Motion passes. And with one recusal, one no, and one absent.
Okay, so then, I'm assuming then that number 2, someone's gonna suggest postponement?
Well,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I move that we postpone ordinance calendar number 5681 until, I guess until we get it back from planning and zoning, which we ought to be back at the next meeting because they're meeting next week. So let's just say the next meeting.
Okay. I have a motion and a second by Mr. Lorino.
Marty, I have a question.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, y'all slow down, we're gonna get to you. Go ahead.
Okay. My question goes to Terry Hand. Why can't we take 5681, adopt it with the contingency of the approval of the planning commission on the request to approve the content of ordinance calendar number 5681?
It's an issue of being a conditional adoption, your activity. It would almost have to come back to you again for ratification after they approve it. So it would still have to come back to y'all next month again.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
to the legal counsel also, would it be appropriate to make for me to introduce a resolution now to rescind 5658 next month? As a resolution.
This is to the attorney.
It's not a resolution that's on the agenda.
I understand
tonight. It is a related matter, if you're talking about rescinding something you just approved.
Right.
A resolution does not have to lay over.
Right.
So it's more appropriate that you place that on the calendar, is what I'm saying, for next month.
That's what I would
And it
like.
will appear on the calendar for vote.
By virtue of voting on the postponement, which is what's up now. Mr. Tanner, you have anything else that you can say out loud? Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Marilyn Zeif at 440 Maroney Avenue. In the process of all this, I looked at very closely, finally, last night at 5681, and I've got to ask everyone to please look at B3A, which states that the seller goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission and whatever, and finishes the applications and gets approval. This, I've been told, has been written like this for years. Nobody noticed it, nobody said anything.
You know what's up right now is postponement to go to
Right.
the planning commission. So
Okay.
you will have time to discuss. I'm
Discuss
just
this when
telling
we
you.
bring, this is a correction that the Planning Commission perhaps
Wednesday.
can put in. All right, I emailed everyone, please catch it. And also the fact that the date, October 6th, is on the back still, where it should have come out, whereas the other dates have been taken out, but that date was overlooked at the very end, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like Terry Hand to clarify the fact that the October 6th date is correct.
That is correct. It goes back to the date of the introduction of the ordinance, which is October the 6th. And if you read the section in the current ordinance relative to the vote and the adoption, it says that it goes back to that date, October the 6th.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Vote, please. Thank you, Mr. Toledano.
Motion passes 11 yeas, 1 nay, 1 absent, and 1 recusal.
Okay. Now, unless there's any further objection, we're going to go to the consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically approved in whole by one vote. Items pulled from the consent calendar are discussed and voted upon individually. Let's see. So the items that I have to be pulled, let's see. Ordinance for introduction, I only have one, number 15. That's ordinance calendar number 5711. And then under resolutions, I have 3. I have 4687, that's number 1. Number 6, 4692. And number 21, 4707. Going to go down the line and just see if anyone else has any items or resolutions. Mr. Sharp, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Lorino, Mr. Reichert, Mr. Tanner. I'll take that as a no. Mr. Groby? Okay, so it's going to be pulled. So, all right. Mr. Canulet, Mr. Belisario, Ms. O'Brien, Mr. Stefancic.
Yes, ordinance for introduction, number 2, ordinance coming up 5698.
5698. Okay, Ms. Blanchard? Mr. Smith? All right. Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the consent calendar? Motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Okay, Mr. Stefancic had asked for 5698 ordinance to amend and supplement the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2 to Article 3, Council Rules and Procedures. Mr. Steve?
Mr. Chairman, want to amend this before it is, as it's being introduced or before it's introduced. Under item 4 on the ordinance, section 2, item 4, it says, any violation of these rules will subject to the offender to immediate removal from the chambers. I want to add to that, multiple violations of these rules could result, or could subject the violator to being banned from the council chambers.
Is that significant? Okay. Okay, all right. So I have a motion to amend ordinance calendar number 5698. Does anybody need any explanation? Okay. So,
I
do I have a
move to
second?
amend, yeah.
Second by Mr. Belisario, motion by Mr. Stefancic to amend. Any discussion? Okay, vote please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Move to introduce.
Okay, motion by Mr. Stefancic to reintroduce. Second, Mr. Canulet. All right. Thank you, Mr. Stefancic. Continuing on, item number 15, ordinance calendar number 5711, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 2.928 acres from A3 to I3, Ward 9, District 12.
Well, I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, for a postponement for 1 month at the request of the home council person.
All right, so I have a motion to postpone for 1 month by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Okay, vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, no more under the ordinances. Now we're looking at resolutions. Resolution CS 4687, resolution requesting Louisiana Legislative Auditor require the inclusion of detailed review of all credit card expenditures within the enhanced audit procedures for all St. Tammany Parish public entities. Mr. Jean.
I want to make a motion to postpone to the December meeting. We have to make some changes to the ordinance, need the extra time.
I'll second.
Okay, who's saying, Mr. Grovey had it. So Mr. Belisario, motion to postpone until December, seconded by Mr. Grovey. Any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Tanner?
I'm not opposed to this, but since we postponed it, I'd also like to get an idea of what it's gonna cost each one of these agencies. You know, some of them have a lot more credit cards than others, like for us, for example, with Public Works and what have you, if they're gonna do all of them, how much is that gonna cost us? How much is it gonna cost the different entities that we're requiring them to have?
Are you saying you want that number before next?
I just, you know, I'd like to have it before I vote on it. I mean,
Okay.
it's gonna cost an extra $100,000 to do every,
You like,
one of them, I'm not gonna support it.
okay.
Okay.
Mr. Grovey?
The reason we were moving to introduce this originally was because of the Recreation District 4 audit. Many times, all of us have seen, sometimes credit cards seemingly aren't as controlled as other things should be. What we're trying to do is make it so that the internal auditors for those said boards are required to check the credit card. When I had met with the internal auditor of Rec 4 many months ago, I had specifically asked, had they checked their credit cards, and they told us no. And they had, believe it, 5 or 6 at a time, and I find that unacceptable. So we're trying to make it so that there are better controls in place to safeguard the public's money on some of these subboards. And so we're trying to work with legal to see how we can introduce this. We don't want to cost any boards any money. We're trying to make this a rule requiring these subboards to actually verify their credit card usage monthly.
Okay, Mr. Stefancic?
Yes. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have a little concern with the way that's being addressed, because the normal audits that we have are compliance audits. They are not forensic audits, and establishing this forensics piece into it is gonna be costly, as Mr. Tanner said. So I think we need to understand what we're levying on every one of these recreation districts or fire districts or whatever it is that we appoint members to. But, you know, before we vote on this, we need to know what that's gonna cost, because, you know, what we do now and what we have done for years is had a compliance audit. That's all we've had. And the legislative auditor is now dictating what else we put in there, at least for the parish here. And I think we can ask him to do some things, but to do a complete audit of every credit card transaction that's happened is going to be expensive.
And everyone understands that the motion is to postpone, correct?
I understand it's to postpone, but
For
I'm
further
saying
discussion.
that, you know, we need to really have that information before,
I hear you.
even if we had, you know, if we can't get it.
And I don't know
then
where
I'm
you
not
can
gonna-
get that information.
Well,
Mr. Chair,
But I hear you. Yes, sir.
we're going to address that. There's also a section in there where A.G. Crow put in what I call a sunset, is that law was written for a population between 200 and 225 or something like that. It'll go to the next census. But right now, our population is greater than that. So it'll sunset and go away, and I'm looking at getting legislation to take that out of there. You know, the sunset, as I deem it, and also to look at the issue on the credit cards. We can say whatever we want. You're talking the audits that we're doing. We are appointing people to a board who didn't know all their requirements. We now have a board and commissions manual. I'm meeting with people next week to talk about credit card issues, because they have concerns on that they're hearing that nobody, even the chair of the finance committee, these rec boards or fire districts, aren't looking at anything with credit cards. To me, I have a hang-up with that. There has to be some type, at least some random sampling of the credit cards to know what's going on, versus telling them, okay, don't worry about it. When it happens, then everybody looks bad. Go back to the coroner who went to jail with the credit cards. Nothing was being looked at. I don't think we can sustain that. We have to do something.
Mr. Kenyon, let me remind, we are talking about the
I
postponement
understand
that
that.
will be discussed again, and I'm probably going to suggest there's a lot of things to go. I
If
don't
this-
think we ought to nail it down to December.
If this is just coming from the actions of District 4, Rec District, why don't we just have do Rec 4 District? leave everything else alone, come out with a criteria.
Okay, let me continue on. Mr. Toledano?
Yeah, just a quick question of Leslie. Leslie, do we have a written protocol now for credit card usage?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And presumptively, all of our boards and commissions receive a copy of that. I mean, I think that's an important
I'm
thing.
not positive of that, but I do know that they have, in the manual, they may have addressed credit cards. Is Carlin here? Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and the point being, I don't want people to think that we just have a laissez-faire, don't look back, a policy. Leslie's office has a written protocol for credit cards, and maybe part of our due diligence is to make sure that all those boards and commissions are fully versed on it, but it's not like we're just wild and crazy on credit cards here, and I don't want anybody to think that.
We use them pretty sparingly, and also, not only do we have a policy, but the auditors do check. While they might not check every transaction, what they normally do is choose at least 2 months and test every transaction in that month. And if they were to find a deficiency, they'll expand the sample to additional months.
Yeah.
Ms. Brister?
And that's something that was told to us before.
And let me, again, once again, I've not heard one person talk about the postponement of this item. Everybody keeps talking about credit cards that's going to be postponed. So let me talk, Ms. Brister.
This is about postponement. We
Thank
just
you.
received today
Bless your heart.
the report from the legislative auditors, enhanced reporting, and it covers credit cards on all these agencies. So you will have that report. It just came to me today, and it was addressed to you and me, so you will have it by next month's
Good.
discussion.
Any further discussion? Thank you, Mr. Toledano, for turning out your light. So there's a motion and a second to postpone, should we say, I guess, to December, correct? To December. All right. Any further discussion? Good. Vote, please. Thank you, Ms. Brister.
Mr. Thompson? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right. Item number 6, Resolution CSC 4692, resolution to acknowledge and confirm the appointment of Director of the Department of Health and Human Services for 2016 through 2020. Ms. Brister.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we have the Allison Villars here tonight. I would like for her to stand and at least be recognized so everyone will know her when they see her. So we are asking for that approval tonight. She's been working nonstop since she came, and she's doing a great job. So,
All right.
thank you.
All right, so do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Belisario, second by Mr. Tanner. Any discussion? Okay, vote please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, continuing on, number 21, item number CS 4707, resolution to concur or not concur with the City of Mandeville annexation, rezoning 6.365 acres from Parish HC2 to Mandeville B2. I'm told I need to look at Mr. Savant for a statement. I do very begrudgingly.
Hello, Mr. Dean.
Should I?
Mike
hit the
Savant
timer?
here. Only to inform the council that the language within the resolution required a little bit of tweaking regarding the sharing of the sales tax with the city of Mandeville should this annexation go forward. The resolution erroneously stated that Mandeville would receive 100% of any sales tax generated. That pursuant to the sales tax agreement the parish has with the city is actually an 80-20 split. So the resolution is actually in need of amendment to reflect an 80-20 split should the annexation occur prior to its adoption.
Okay, so we need an amendment, Ms. Maureen?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. O'Brien, seconded by Mr. Stefanczyk. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, vote please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
To concur.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and I'll also move to concur.
Go ahead. So, So we have a motion to concur by Ms. O'Brien, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, that's it for the consent calendar. We're moving on to ordinances for adoption. There are no appeals, thank God. We've already done number 1 and 2. We're on item number 3. 5682, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium on properties south of 1088 from Salt Street to Hickory Street, Ward 4, District 7.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Groby. Do I have a second? By Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Okay, vote please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, number 4, ordinance calendar number 5683, ordinance accepting finalized subdivision of the road and drainage inventory, Ward 1, District 4. Okay, motion by Mr. Lorino, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? All right, vote please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, number 5, ordinance calendar number 5684, ordinance establishing a no parking zone on DeSoto Street, Ward 4, District 5. Mr. Taladano? Okay, motion to adopt by Mr. Taladano, second by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Vote please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, number 6, ordinance calendar number 5685, ordinance to amend the 2016 operating budget, excuse me, amendment number 11. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Any discussion? Vote please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item number 7, ordinance calendar number 5686, ordinance to amend Parish Code to include a permit fee for a site work permit. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Vote please.
Mr. Belisario? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item number 8, ordinance calendar number 5687, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 5 acres from A1 to A2, Ward 2, District 3. Motion by, who's that? Mr. Thompson? Second by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item number 9, ordinance calendar number 5688, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify .574 acres from A4 to ED1, Ward 8, District 9.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Belisario, second by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item number 10, ordinance calendar number 5689, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 16.77 acres from A2 to A4, Ward 1, District 1. Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Lorino. Thank you all. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item number 11, ordinance amending ordinance calendar number 5690, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 2 acres from A1 to A2, Ward 2, District 3. Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Sharp. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Toledano, Mr. Tanner? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item number 12, ordinance calendar number 5691, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 82.759 acres from A1 to A3, Ward 1, District 3. Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 13, Ordinance calendar number 5692, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 759 acres from A1 to A3 and PUD, Ward 1, District 3. Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Sharp? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Number 14, ordinance calendar number 5693, ordinance establishing a no parking zone on the median of Live Oak Court, Ward 3, District 4. Motion by Mr. Lorino, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item number 15, ordinance calendar number 5694, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire certain parcels through the Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant Program, Ward 8, District 13. Motion by Ms. Blanchard, second by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? All right, vote please.
Mr. Sharp, Mr. Sharp, Mr. Thompson? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, item number 16, ordinance calendar number 5695, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 89.5501 acres from A1 to A2, Ward 4, District 5. Motion by Mr. Taladano, seconded by Mr. Lorino. We do have some cards, and I'm understanding as it's looking like, as you come up, you can discuss, it is item number 5695 and 96. So we'll just start kind of on top here. Matthew, and you have 2 minutes, please. Let me get my timer, okay. Okay, I have Mr. Matthew Crane. Please come up and tell us, state your name and where you're from, where you live. Matthew Crane. Mr. Crane is not here?
He's right here.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matthew Crane. I'd like to yield my time to Mr. Shane.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry about that. All right. Okay. Mark Daigle.
Hi, I'm Mark Daigle. I live at 69 Victoria Lane in Victorian Oaks. Our subdivision abuts the property. I've just got one question, really. The PUD is approved, the density plan. We had some questions about the yield plan and how it was calculated. We never did quite get an answer on that. Also, there was a revised PUD that was submitted after the zoning commission approved the first PUD. So my question is that supposed to go back before the zoning commission again for public review? Or is that something that you can vote on right now? Because the yield plan is different, the layout of the subdivision is different, so that, in my view, is a different PUD. So well, I'd like to know how that can happen without a public comment period. The first yield plan and the second yield plan both have some deficiencies from code. There are no accommodations for drainage from Victorian Oaks and the St. Michael's property through the subdivision. It's basically all houses blocked in, very neatly done. The second one was actually repackaged in a neater fashion. They revised basically the size of the retention ponds. But neither one of them takes into account the wetlands or the drainage underneath what would need to be going through the subdivision. It would have to run under houses. So that's my comment on what's going on, and that's what I'd like for you all to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Daigle.
You're welcome.
Ms. Marcia Davis?
My name is Marcia Davis, and I reside at 801 Harmony in Westwood. I have a friend who is 87 years old, and she does not live in the Sharp Road corridor, but her daughter does. And she shared with me that as she is leaving her daughter's subdivision and turning left onto Sharp Road, she always feels like she's taking her life in her hands, because there's a curve right near Rosedown, and as she's turning, she's 87, so she's concerned that as she's looking, by the time she looks back the other way, somebody speeding towards her is going to hit her. And so now she's saying that, she shared with me that should the traffic increase with the development of Brentwood, she would no longer feel safe going to visit her daughter. And this is an 87-year-old woman. My point is that should this subdivision become a reality in its present form, it's so dense, this would not only interfere with the quality of life of the Sharp Road neighbors, but also of many other residents as well, including my friend. We have a very, very mobile society, as you know. If the assumptions of the council are correct and the rate of outflow requirements are met and there is minimal traffic impact, that's fine. But what if the plans fail and deleterious events occur? Who then is responsible? Who should be held accountable? Is it fair for the taxpayers of St. Tammany Parish to pick up the tab for faulty calculations as when the home was condemned in Century Oaks? Is it fair for the Sharp Road neighbors to have to endure financial and emotional distress as a result of another's actions? Every week at Mass, we recite a family prayer, which is sanctioned by the Archdiocese. There's one line which also appeals to our Heavenly Father, which reads, "We implore you to give us your wisdom, that we may build a community founded on the values of Jesus, which gives respect to the life and dignity of all people." The act of developing Brentwood is not respecting the Sharp Road community.
You
Please
need to wrap it
vote
up,
for the
please.
quality of life of the Sharp Road neighbors, as well as the dignity of all the existing community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, Mr. Ken Ress, R-E-S-S.
Yeah, I am Ken Ress, Sharp Road Corridor, Mandeville. I'm here after 4 months of observing and participating in the process of rezoning the A&O property on Sharp Road. I am a representative of the people of the corridor. We are angry. We believe that the rezoning process is flawed. We believe that people listen to us but do not hear us. The planning process needs to be much more detailed before zoning changes are approved. There's too much concern for the developer and not enough for the citizens already living here. Each zoning change is done in a vacuum. There are multiple zoning changes going on close to our corridor that will impact traffic, drainage, and quality of life, yet each one is reviewed on its own. The sum of these changes is not talked about. It appears that anyone requesting a zoning change to a piece of property that somehow represents growth or more tax dollars to the parish starts the process with the parish trying to find a way for them to be successful. Homeowners' concerns are politely listened to, then dismissed as if we don't know what we're talking about. Traffic concerns are not fully explored. TIAs with limited data are used to justify projects, while people who use these roads on a daily basis are ignored. There is no real conversation about the traffic issues. The 2025 plan is used like a one-size-fits-all. Under its guidance, any piece of property is not yet developed needs to be developed as densely as possible, no matter where it is located. The plan does not adequately address infrastructure improvements, either before or in unison with the development.
If roadways can't be updated, then the project should be put on hold or moratorium put in place until they are adequately addressed. Parish ordinances are waived if it makes it too difficult for the developer to develop a piece of property. In particular, cul-de-sac lengths and two entrance requirements. Too much effort is used to aid the developers. If they are good at what they do, they will come to you with a good plan to begin with. The time-constrained review process at zoning and council meetings limits constructive discussion. Council members will take sides with their own constituents, but somehow fail to see the issue the same way in other districts. The process of voting with the council person from the area of zoning change instead of making your own informed decision is wrong. Your ongoing actions and process have assured our continual vigilance of parish activities. We're not going away. This is our home. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Mr. David Lowe.
I'm David Lowe. I've lived over 30 years in the Sharp Road corridor. I have two concerns, two things that were done in the past that I think made sense, and now I'm looking to see why we don't do it now. When Meadowbrook was developed, they wanted access to Sharp Road, denied by the parish because of traffic concerns. This project would add traffic. We already have way more traffic than we had back then. Second thing is Victorian Oaks. When they wanted to develop, they wanted smaller lots. They were denied. They were made to have larger lots. The smallest lot is right over 1/3 of an acre. The garden homes would abut Victorian Oaks. 1/3 of an acre, less than 3 houses per acre, Victorian Oaks, 13 houses per acre, garden homes, abutting it, a little 25-foot buffer. You can read their newspaper over their shoulder if they're sitting on their back patio. That's not a lot. By the way, Victorian Oaks, as an example of how things work, it's fully developed except for one lot owned by the man next door who doesn't want to sell it. And there's no homes for sale in Victorian Oaks. So larger lots, while there is the way of most of the area, there's no 45 by 65s in anywhere on Sharp Road corridor that I could find. So having these garden homes abutting somebody who was forced to use bigger lots and proved it works don't make sense. Last thing is when we moved there, we looked at what was there and what would be there along Sharp Road. We looked at the zoning. This property was zoned A1 and A2 like most everything else. Expecting it to be developed as such, we went ahead and moved there. There was no trailers, there was no whatever. It was made sense how it was and where to put our money, where to put our house. It's not time now to change it and decide it's 45 by 65-foot garden homes. That's out of line with everything in the area, and it's certainly out of line with what was projected in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Joycelyn Lowe.
Joycelyn Lowe, 150 Glendale Heights. I will ask you one more time, Mr. Toledano, to please represent the people in the Sharp Road area. And I want to remind every council person, you were not elected to decide what is best for us. You were elected to represent us. If you choose to vote to rezone this property, you'll be doing so against the will of the people who elected you. The majority of the people in the Sharp Road corridor who elected you are angry. That's over 850 home sites. I know, I get the emails. Remember, I'm the one who started them. And I have the petitions that were signed by 700 residents of the area, the petitions that you didn't want to see because it didn't matter to you. Our previous councilman, Mr. Gould, as our representative, worked with us to out a compromise in 2011. I have the notes from 2011, the map, my handwritten notes on them. It talked about the church, the assisted living, the elementary home, school for the future, the cemetery, the funeral home, A1 and A2 zoning, one egress to Sharp Road buffers, and all those other things you've heard, and especially in those private meetings you had with some of our representatives. We left it with him, Mr. Gould's capable hands, as he was representing us, or so we thought. We did not put it in writing or on the record at the council meeting. We trusted him to represent us as he was elected to do. But then changes were made. St. Anthony's Assisted Living somehow became a mega retirement community, and it's still growing. And now you're considering to approve zoning changes that will allow a PUD on a part of a land basically put 102 homes where it is presently zoned to allow 30. And continue to try to convince the people that we are wrong to think Brentwood is no different in density than the rest of the area. To you, Mr. Shane, the Archdiocese of New Orleans, Mr. Q, Mr. Intravia, we the people are not stupid. Lots that are 45 by 65 are nowhere near the average sized lots on Sharp Road. Let's talk apples to apples now. Next time we talk that density issue, that is. Mr. Toledano, months ago we asked for a community meeting, and you didn't have one, as you promised you would, as you promised us you would. You said staff would not let you. Perhaps you should ask Mr. Sponsic, Mr. Belsario for advice. They seem to get it done quite often.
Ms. Lowe, you need to wrap it up.
I am. You might find that to be a good thing, or perhaps you will, people felt betrayed and won't be there as they aren't here tonight. Should you choose to vote against the people tonight and allow this rezoning, how about working with the people and help us make our established community a place where we want to continue to live? We feel it is only right and fair to all that we have a legally binding document that all of us can live with, and it needs to be done prior to the first shovel of earth is disturbed. As you are aware, we have traffic and drainage issues. Let's start our discussions with the 66-acre detention pond, retention pond, or whatever you want to call it. Deed restrictions.
Ms. Lowe.
Building, I got 2 sentences.
Right.
Building Judge Tanner to Highway 59. You have the mitigation funds. Do it. You can do it if you want to. A number of home sites that would blend in with the lot sizes in Sharp Road corridor. Apples to apples. Will you, our representative, keep promises? Only time will tell.
Okay, Mr. Dan Shapiro.
Hi, I'm Dan Shapiro, 123 Blue Heron in Audubon Lakes. Traffic, which is already bad on Sharp Road, will get worse. We are puzzled by the traffic study for 2 reasons. One, it doesn't match our experience, and I'm sure your experience. I heard people complaining in this room about coming up on Highway 59. And the impact that these roughly 200 vehicles will have on the road is negligible, according to the traffic study. So I copied a page out of the traffic study. For instance, so we're going to put roughly 200 cars back on the road once this development is completely finished. 103 houses, 200 cars, 2 cars per house. So I'm looking at the study of Sharp Road and Highway 59, eastbound Sharp Road, which is at the 59 light. It will increase by 1.3 seconds, the delay. This is a morning peak. This is going to school. Westbound Sharp Road, and I'm not sure what this means because it's at the intersection of Sharp and Highway 59, but according to the study, it goes from 36.7 second current delay to 36.8 second projected delay. That's 0.1 seconds. If one car, if one extra car, by the way, I did the math when I was coming over here because I was interested in what would it take one car, which is say 15 feet, how fast would one car have to go to go through a light in 0.1 seconds? It's 91 miles an hour. And at the peak periods, Sharp Road and Highway 59, again, eastbound Sharp Road at Highway 59. Now this is in the evening. This is when we came here, It took us 2 lights to get through Sharp Road and 59, but according to this, once we put 200 cars on the road, it will increase from 53.8 seconds to 54 seconds, 0.2 of a second. So this I'm not an engineer, but this seems to defy logic. Looking at the traffic study, it appears that the traffic study was at least a part of it was done after the seniors left school, which are the majority of the drivers going to Fontainebleau in the morning and in the evening.
Mr. Shapiro, you need to wrap it up.
Okay, so we would like a better traffic study done. There's approximately 2,000 residents in 900 households that live on and off Sharp Road, with that being their only way to and from work, school, and their homes. Why would you, who are tasked to protect our quality of life, choose this development over the residents that it will affect and who are counting on you to protect them? Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Dennis Ryan? I have 2 cards from you, but I'm assuming you're going to speak on both like everyone else.
I'm Dennis Ryan, priest at St. Michael's Church and preschool. We have 500 active church members. We have 200 students in our preschool, which means 400 parents. In other words, we have 1,000 stakeholders involved in what's going on next door to us. We are fearful. We are very fearful that the flooding that was experienced in Century Oaks as a result of Meadowbrook will happen to us. You see on that drawing that you have in front of you, thin blue lines which indicate existing water flow. It stops. It stops at the back of Brentwood. It backs up on our property. It backs up into the areas where our preschoolers play every day, weather permitting. That road that will be built to connect Phase 1 with Phase 2 and 3 will effectively dam up that water. It will back up on St. Michael's. There's been no study done yet that we can find that shows any way other than 2 culverts that run north and south where all of our water has drained in the past but now will be bottlenecked. There's no study that we see that runs laterally where those big blue arrows are versus the small thin ones. There's nothing there on the drawings that indicate a ditch of any kind that will route that water effectively and not back up on our property. We feel that the flow through Brentwood would pose a substantially lower flooding risk if the zoning ordinance was upheld with the number of homes that now exist on an acre. The water simply will not be able to drain off our property under the proposed PUD layout and yield plan that you have in front of you. Mr. Lemkuller with Century Oaks asked in prior hearings that the flooding safety issues along Highway 190 be addressed prior to approving the zoning change. Tonight, I'm asking that you deny the increased housing density allowed by the zoning change and/or the PUD approval until the drainage impact and flooding potential to our church grounds, but more importantly, our students, our children, preschoolers. The planning process does not require such a review and assessment. It requires reduced runoff only from the land being developed, Brentwood. What I'm asking that you do is take into account that policies, procedures, and the like are yours. They're yours. They belong to you. You can respond to what we believe is right for people of your parish, or you can make no response and follow policy and procedure. We hope and pray that it will be the first. The basic question is, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't do it tonight, when will you do it? You may not get another chance. I'm calling on you as a fellow on the way together. We ended our opening prayer in Jesus' name. Who did Jesus ask to suffer to come to him first? The little children. In other places, he said, don't ever let one of these find an obstacle that you can prevent from coming. Please, say a prayer, think of what's right, and do your best to do so. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Shane, and Mr. Crane has yielded 2 minutes of his time to you. And we've, just so you know, everyone has gone over, most people went over 3 minutes, so.
Mr. Dean, before the clock starts, well, first of all, Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm in Covington, and I represent the landowner, the Archdiocese of New Orleans, as well as the petitioner, Land Holding Development LLC, Brentwood Estates. I certainly understand the rules, and I think I should have to follow them just as everyone else does. What's happened is the adoption of this ordinance has turned into an appeal hearing. And, you know, had I brought a group of 20, which I could have, and I'm not suggesting anyone in this room stop me from doing that, I could have either let them parade, or perhaps I could get enough time to try to, I know some of the questions begged for answers. So one possibility I see is that if you'd like to give me enough time to answer the questions, I'm not suggesting that I get time to pontificate on reasons that I think something's right, wrong, etc. That would be going beyond the purview of your rules. But I'm trying to figure out how I should effectively use 4 minutes to address a case that was on 3 zoning commission agendas. It had 2 community meetings. This is the 2nd council meeting, and the cumulative vote for this project at this point is 45 votes yes and 3 votes against. So I would like to have an opportunity to answer some of those questions.
It's up to you. I mean, we know that it's going back before planning, so then they'll, correct, so it'll be going to planning.
Yes, sir.
Where you'll talk about the traffic and the drainage and all of that. So it's up to you if that's how you want to use your 4 minutes. I'm going to suggest that we don't. And again, that, Mr. Taladano, it's your gig there. I'm going to suggest that you have your 4 or 5 minutes, and then
Okay.
what's your pleasure? Turn your light on. Turn your mic on, please. You've only been here 10 months.
Let's see what can be discussed in that 4 or 5 minutes, and then I'm going to reserve some time also, and let's sort of see where we are. In fairness to the gentlemen and ladies that raised questions out there, I think, and I would presume Mr. Shane will address those a bit, and it would be my intention to have some discussion also. If I would offer that we give Mr. Shane 6 minutes in the spirit of fairness, and then
I beg your pardon, please.
Yeah.
Mr. Dean,
Yes.
I'm fine with 4 minutes.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you for your comments.
Sure.
First of all, which will take a few minutes, despite the overwhelming 14-0 vote that you made on appeal last month, Councilman Taladana contacted my client and I and asked us to consider making further considerations or concessions, if you will, as it relates to the project. I have provided to you this evening a memorandum which would be conditions to the PUD that would be placed into the record, as well as an amended PUD plan. So I will start my presentation by saying that when you consider the adoption of the ordinance for the PUD, I would appreciate you considering amending that ordinance to include not only these conditions, but the amended PUD plan that's attached to it. I don't have time to go through all of the conditions, but I would like to say, because I believe it's noteworthy, that Mr. Taladana insisted on one point that you'll see there, and that is that to further negate the possibility that this project may change in the future and that we would come back and seek more density, we've added a provision that says that the density could only be increased not only if you approved it as a matter of government, but that there would be written resolutions of support from Victorian Oaks, Westwood, and Century Oaks subdivisions. That way, the people themselves would have an opportunity to have a hand in any increase in density. This is a zoning hearing this evening, and as you know, technically drainage is not an issue before you. The only reason that drainage became an issue in prior discussions is that Mr. Toledano requested the developer to perform a drainage study and submit it not only to the parish engineer, but also to the drainage district engineer for review, in hopes that there would be some observations at the time of the appeal hearing last month. That study was submitted. Mr. Watson and Mr. Buckle, respectively, on behalf of the parish and the drainage district, believed that the drainage study that was submitted was adequate. They also noted that they would be looking for certain other information that would be submitted at the time of the formal filing, because there is another opportunity after tonight to look at the impacts of this project as it relates to drainage. In fact, the opportunity is the time when it comes before the Planning Commission for preliminary subdivision approval. I would also like to note that the amended yield plan and amended PUD plan are code compliant. You have every right to look at those amended plans. The Zoning Commission does not have the right to approve those plans. It has a right to recommend those plans to you. Those plans can be amended by you, and based on the discussion we had last month at the appeal, and in light of further requests that Mr. Toledano has made since then, that's why we have submitted the memorandum with attached plat tonight that would become part of the ordinance. I would also suggest to you that the PUD ordinance did require that we submit a traffic study in connection with our application. We believe that traffic study meets the requirements of your ordinance. Your traffic engineer believes it's the requirements of the ordinance, and it did not require any form of mitigation. Interestingly, the developer, again upon the request of Mr. Toledano, agreed to put in a left turn lane on Sharp Road. In fact, if we look at the left turn lane, the roundabout that we've agreed to put in the development, the connection of streets to eliminate longer length cul-de-sacs, we've spent about $250,000 in additional improvements that not only improve the subdivision, but I think also improve the safety elements of the subdivision and lessen the impacts of the subdivision on the people in the Sharp Road corridor.
Mr. Shane, you're at 4:08.
Okay, may I have 30 seconds? I would like to close by saying the following. I believe that your process has once again worked. There's ordinances that tell developers and landowners what they must do if they wish to put their property into commerce. We have done the best job that we could to meet those ordinances. Interestingly, your zoning commission and you on appeal seem to have agreed with us in the past. We have tried to take additional steps and go beyond that to address what appear to be very legitimate concerns about traffic and drainage. Please remember that if, in fact, you adopt the zoning tonight, the journey will continue through the Planning Commission to make sure that this subdivision is not only developed as per your ordinance, but is also made to be as compatible as possible for the people that live in the Sharp Road corridor. I appreciate the additional time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Mr. Shane a question?
Yeah, but I don't want to get into this whole,
No,
like
just
an
one
appeal.
question.
Mr. Shane?
Jeff? Did I hear you say that there was 2 public meetings on this?
This case appeared on 3 zoning commission agendas, but was really only heard in full at one. There were 2 community meetings held in this chamber.
Okay.
And in addition to that, there was an appeal hearing last month.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Dean?
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Go ahead.
Just very briefly, because we have discussed this a lot, and obviously Ms. Lowe, I'm sure accidentally misspoke when she said that I promised a community meeting and didn't have one. To the contrary, I had 2 of them. Not 1, but 2, ma'am.
At a larger venue.
May I finish, please? So we had 2 community meetings. This thing has been discussed exhaustively. I met with Ken and his group multiple times before we voted the last time. They came to me afterwards. They said, can we meet again? I met with them again. They did a nice job of making their presentation. They raised some points. I went back and met with the developer. I said, I want to see you make more changes. Honestly, I don't know that I could have gotten any more concessions out of these developers than possible. And I sit here and I listen to a point, well, if we made it 5 acres, then it would be more palatable and therefore, among other things, drainage would be better. Well, the reality is, if you make 5-acre lots, you fill more of the area, and I think you make the drainage worse. Point of fact is, this thing has been vetted as much as it possibly could. It got off on a very bad start because somebody irresponsibly posted signs on Sharp Road about this being HUD housing. It's, of course, nothing like this. So it took a lot of time, took a lot of work of Ken's group in sitting down and analyzing things, all of which we took into consideration. Gentlemen and ladies of this council, I don't know of anything else that I could have done as a councilman to get things in the perspective they are today, where I think this is a good, safe development. The point should be emphasized one more time that the issues with regard to drainage and traffic are going to be further vetted at the next level as they go forth with preliminary approval. So, for instance, the good pastor in the back from St. Michael's raised a concern about drainage. He wasn't here at the first meeting when people came here thinking that the drainage was to Sharp Road instead of to the north. Well, that matter has been discussed exhaustively with the developers. They know full well that they have to accommodate any outflows coming across St. Michael's property, that watershed. So I am confident that your staff, our staff in this parish, will make sure that those things are done. I think this development is good. I don't think it will be deleterious to the community.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, vote please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Who's two? Okay. All right, so then that's 16, item number 17, 5696, ordinance pending, amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 104.17 acres from A1 and A2 to A2 and PUD, Ward 4, District 5. Mr. Toledano. Motion to adopt, seconded by Mr. Lorino. Wait.
Gotta be
Discussion.
amended. This is the PUD.
So you have a motion to adopt as amended. As per these amendments? Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. So, Mr. Toledano, I think you may need to change a motion to amend? Yes. Correct? And I have a second by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Mr. Stefanczyk, your lights on? Okay. All right. Vote please on the amendment.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, now I need a motion on the ordinance. Okay, motion to adopt by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 18, ordinance calendar number 5697, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 7.08 acres located north side of Harrison Avenue, west of Flowers Drive, from A2 to PF1, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Thompson. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Sharp. Motion and second by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, now we're going to appointments. Number 1, resolution to appoint one member to replace A.J. Montalbano to Fire Protection District Number 3. John Hutcherson has requested appointment, District 7 and 11.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Grovey. Do I have a second by Mr. Thompson? Any discussion? Okay, vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, now I have a question about this next one. Do we have to have it lay over parish-wide? No?
Which one you want? This next one?
You gonna suspend the rules?
Yeah, I want to make certain, we did, for the Tourist Commission Board, we did, we voted somebody in a month or so ago, and
Right.
that person had to resign, so we've got to reopen the thing, which means we start all over.
Okay.
We've got one name on here. There are 2 other names that should be on here from the Tourist and Convention Board, and they will show up next month. This has to lay over a month anyhow, so.
Okay, so what's your pleasure? You want to open nominations and nominate Ms. Nuss,
Well,
someone?
I want to at least make certain that those 2 names get on there, and I don't know what they both are.
So you want 'em-
Don had gotten the resumes and sent it out to everybody, and I think nobody brought it with them probably. So
I have them.
if you got them, I want to just make sure we get them and put them on there, and then we'll vote on this next month.
The second name is Stephanie O'Rourke. The third one's Todd Wally, W-H-A-L-L-E-Y.
Okay.
Okay, I need the name so I can read it in the
Sure.
record,
All right.
if you wouldn't mind.
If that's it.
So we have a resolution to
Stephanie
appoint,
O'Rourke.
okay, we have a resolution to appoint 1 member to the Tourist Convention Commission to replace Ms. Lisa Connery Ward. We have Ms. Susan Nuss, NUSS.
And I
We
want to
have-
nominate the other 2.
And nominate the other 2.
And we have a motion by Mr. Stefanczyk and Belisario to
Add the other 2 names.
nominate,
It's Stephanie O'Rourke and Todd Wally with an H.
Stephanie O'Rourke, and what's the next
Todd
one?
Wally with an H.
And Todd Wally, W-H-A-L-L-E-Y. Okay, so motion and a second to nominate, we will vote next month? Okay. A motion to close the nomination? A motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Mr. Stefanczyk to close the nominations. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Tanner? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, third item, resolution to appoint or reappoint 4 members to the Water District Number 3 Board and 1 which to place Lauren Hudson, who resigned. We have Thomas Miller, Jeff Hodges, and Brent Cordell, terms expired. And they've requested reappointment, and Mr. William Bartlett has requested appointment. So we have 4 names. Mr. Lorino? Okay, have motion and second by Mr. Toledano. It's local, so we can vote tonight. Number 3, Water District Number 3 Board. We have 4 names. Mr. Miller, Mr. Hodges, Mr. Cordell, and Mr. Bartlett, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
just in deference to Mr. Binder being absent, may I just ask one question?
Do you
Just
have
kidding.
to? Okay, good. Thank you. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote, please. Oh, boy. Did everybody vote?
Mr. Tanner? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, that's it for the regular agenda. I need a motion to open the items off the floor agenda, please. Motion by Mr. Canulet, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Y'all look so much alike. Okay, any discussion? Vote, please, on opening items off the floor. Okay, so we have 1 vote. It needs to be unanimous. Could be unanimous too, I guess. Unanimous, so the items off the floor are not open. Okay. Any discussion? Meeting is adjourned.